Here's your host, Senator Norman John Baptiste.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning to the Virgin Islands. Good morning to the world. Good morning to, hey, if I want to break it down specifically, the Caribbean region, um, North America, you name it. Good morning to all of you and welcome to this program. This is Upfront with John Baptiste on AM 970 WSTX. I am your host, Norman John Baptiste, also known as Bapo. And it's good to be here. I'm feeling alive and well. I want to thank the Creator Most High for the gift of life and for the blessings that He bestows on me daily. I didn't just come here by myself. I know I was sent. I know I'm commissioned. I know I do have a mission in this life. I attended a school. The motto was enter to learn, depart to serve. I am committed to service to mankind, my fellow human beings. But having said that, there are a number of things I want us to touch on this morning. Before we get into that, I want to deal with Virgin Islands culture somewhat, what's happening to us, because folks, there's a total breakdown in our community. We need a rebuild. I want to talk about some things this morning, but let's listen to this song that speaks about VI culture. And I want you all to listen intently and try to resonate with the words of this song. So let's listen.
Image, we back again. We got another little question for you. Hey, you thought it was good the first time? And we had so much fun, we will do it again. Hello, my people, how you doing today? It's been a long time coming, what I have to say. Look at our culture, things are not the same. Let's not sit down and do nothing while they go down the street. Please help me. Let's not put the masqueraders. The music and the mass makers. On the way. Hey. Look around the house that I am. We must prevent this from happening. Saturday. Fight for your culture, work for your culture, enjoy your culture. Get up, worship your culture, learn from your culture, stay with your culture forever.
There was a time around St. Patrick's School or St. Patrick's Church. We used to have a bazaar around Thanksgiving time.
Okay.
Which is a beautiful thing in Baptiste.
Yeah.
There was so much that we used to do
Yeah.
that people allowed to sleep in. And I had a discussion with
The
them.
school's still going on though. At St. Patrick's School, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they still have,
But as long as you bring us together,
right. But I mean, like, if the school's still there, I'm figuring the school would help the church put on this bazaar.
I don't know why they don't do that.
Right. Because you get the children to do something, get them to be involved in something local.
Well, it was beyond that. I had a chat with a teacher this weekend. That's why I'm doing this here.
Mm.
I'm told me how kids don't want to get into what you and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It is sad that our children don't
Yep.
but we don't show appreciation for what we music.
Mm-hmm.
And you have
Well,
all
it's because we only have one, couple groups, max, that play the quadrille music. That's what I mean. And so, we're trying to bring back the music, and hopefully that's the first step. We got to keep the collars, keep them going. It has to be a staple at our cultural events. That's why I like the cultural dances. I like that they keep that going. But there needs to be, so I'm not sure if they have it, but there needs to be some kind of feeder program through schools to get children into, to participate in the dances. Like there should always be, one or two student groups participating in the dances with them every performance, that kind of, like if they go to perform at Central, there should be two student groups who've been practicing with them to perform during that day, to show the participation, to keep the thing running.
Well, I discussed with teacher my vision to have a Caribbean cultural excursion.
Yeah.
I don't know if I really told you about it, where you would have a passport at each place you go to.
Oh, yeah. Super cool.
And you stamp as you sample the culture.
Right,
because
exactly.
We have petitions there, we have visions there, we have
Oh, yeah.
all over.
We're a beautiful melting pot.
So at that venue, we would have this kind of display
Right.
of the cultures.
Right.
So when you enter, you get a passport. As you visit each both area,
Stamp it up. Boom.
you know.
Happy
And he
that. I
told me,
like
and
it.
he said, man, I love this, so much. And I
Mhm.
said, yeah, well, that's a vision I have. Let's see how we can implement it. I need people to work with me as a team to
Right.
get these things done.
Right. Well, and I think the first step would be getting that a full plan envisioned,
Mhm.
and then you just need to tackle the communities. You know, like
The different organizations.
exactly different organizations that already exist.
Yeah.
And then I think that would just fly through.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, you get a location, and you don't have to go far. You got Ag Fair.
Ag Fair.
Exactly.
Yeah, come on.
You got to go far. You know the good one.
Yeah.
You know?
Really White, Barry Francis, Ethel McIntosh, and many more. Too numerous to mention. Brownie, we conquer you. Good day.
All right, folks, there you have it. I hope you appreciated this rendition, asking us to respect our culture, love our culture. And I think, as I mentioned earlier, there is so much that seems to be falling apart. It reminds me of the book Things Fall Apart by this African writer. But I think now is the time for us to look forward to a rebuild, if I may, a renaissance. And I'm not just speaking in terms of, all the talk we hear about monies allocated to the Virgin Islands to rebuild hospitals and schools and other infrastructure. And of course, we're seeing very little traction in terms of these things. But I'm talking about rebuilding from the standpoint of, how should I put it? Well, like I said, culture, having a sense of Virgin Islands pride. And I know there are some people out there who try to push that narrative out there via the internet in terms of, having a sense of identity as Virgin Islanders, having a sense of pride in terms of who Virgin Islanders are as a people. I think it's important that we begin to look at these things and to see how we can preserve and promote these matters. And so I had a discussion with an educator over the weekend, and mind you, I'm a former educator, and I'll speak a little about that this morning. But I had a discussion with him. We spoke about cultural things, what's not being done here in the territory, and as opposed to what should be done. And then I mentioned to him how there are some island nations in the Caribbean where they have a strong emphasis on preserving and promoting culture, their culture. And I see no reason why we shouldn't do the same here in the Virgin Islands. And then I picked up the Daily News, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, November 21st to the 23rd. And on the front page, they've got a picture of VI's cultural ambassadors. And these guys, they performed in Canada not too long ago. I asked my folks in Canada to make sure they went down to visit them to see the performance. Hats off to those guys like Willa John and others who promote this, who push for this. I know at one time, Gerard Les James II was pretty much involved. I don't know to what extent he's still involved in that. But here the caption says, there is a picture of the Moko Jumbis, and it says, members of the ambassadors of culture, Moko Jumbi, bedecked in colorful attire, take a break from the stilt dancing presentation during the Moko Jumbi cultural show held Thursday at Blackbird's Castle on St. Thomas and presented by founder Israel Allen Peterson, a self-taught stilt dancer who made history by being the first to make a series of presentations at the 2024 Democratic National Convention. And so when I read this, And I thought of, because there is another article in the paper I want to touch upon, I thought about many other things that need to be highlighted here locally as well as in other parts. And these things aren't being highlighted. And I said, man, you know what, this morning on my show, I'm going to play this tune and I'm going to talk a little about culture, the need for us to appreciate what we've got, to preserve the good things that we have, and to promote those good things, and to impress upon the youth, the young ones coming up, the importance of being fully involved in these processes, these traditions, if I may. And so, having said that, folks, I want to just segue a little, because I'm going to get back to this, because there are other things I want to touch upon. But I want to segue a little, and as I move in that direction, again, I want to say that, you know, we really have to take these matters seriously. The Virgin Islands Department of Education used to be referred to as Department of Education and Culture, because there was a strong cultural component. I don't know to what extent that is being carried on today. I understand that there is one school in particular where they make it a point of duty to teach via history, notwithstanding all the shenanigans we hear of. I understand that there is this particular school where they've made history a critical component of their curriculum, what they teach. And that's an elementary school. But hats off to them if they're doing that, notwithstanding all the games being played within the Department of Education and other stakeholders not wanting to formally and seriously engage our students in the process of learning about their culture, learning about their history. So hats off to that school, that particular school. But as I looked at that, I thought of people being recognized. I thought about the education system and the schools that we have in a state of dilapidation. Schools that were named to honor educators who have served this community, this territory. And now the buildings lie in a state of disrepair. And we had nothing in terms of what will be done to continue the honor bestowed on those individuals. And so, as I thought about this, and as I have been thinking about it, and I have spoken about this on my programs. By the way, I do have a program on Friday evenings along with some young people. It's called Choices. And we air a program from 7 to 8:30 on Friday evenings, right here on WSTX. And of course, we stream live on some social media platforms. But as I thought about all of this, and as I got news of persons in this community who have had a bout, if I may, with stroke and heart attack. Yeah, some fellow educators who worked with me, and I was surprised to hear one in particular who had such an experience, but my understanding is that he has recovered. You know, but not all of us recover from these things. And I thought it important that this morning, as we approach Thanksgiving celebrations, and I want to speak a little about Thanksgiving, what it means to the nation America, and the connections between the nation America and ancient Israel. Hopefully I can do a little of that this morning. But I want to just take some time to mention some persons who have contributed significantly. I worked at St. Croix Central High School along with several individuals. And we tend to just simply take it for granted that those persons have worked with us. Many of them have passed on, and you know, it's like, hey, who cares? And I want to mention some. I also worked at Johnny H. Woodson Junior High School. I just want to mention 3 individuals from that school. James Rogers, who was principal. He was the principal when that school was first opened, and he served many, many years and had an excellent relationship and rapport with students at that school. I know many he touched their lives significantly, and they're into what they're into today because of the influence of Mr. James Rogers. I want to also mention Miss Lorraine Gibbs, who also has passed on. Um, she also served as a principal at that school. And then Mr. Vaughn Hewitt also served as a principal at that school, as well as Mr. Moorhead, I think, unless I'm mistaken. And if I'm mistaken, somebody can correct me about this one. But I think Mr. Kent Moorhead also served as a principal at that school. By the way, both Vaughn Hewitt and Kent Moorhead are also accomplished musicians. And there is something about musicians and how they think, how they set their minds to the task, and how they accomplish what they set about to accomplish. And I think this is noteworthy. And we should encourage as many of our young people to get involved in music as much as possible. But here are the persons who, in my opinion, made significant contributions as educators. They worked along with me. I just want to mention some. I'm from Central High School. In administration, we've seen administration of St. Croix Central High School. There was Mr. Otis Hicks, Mr. Rupert Ross, Mr. Willie King, Mr. Kent Moorhead, Mr. Noel Blakey, Miss Bianca Brannigan, Miss Thelma Whitaker, and Pastor Gordon. I wanted to mention these individuals because of Mr. Hicks, I did not work during the administration of Mr. Hicks, although I knew him well. I knew him when he taught agriculture out there. But the others, I worked at Central High School where when they were the administrators at that point in time, or during their tenure, I worked at the school. In the counseling division, we had counselors like Mr. Thomas Raddick, Dr. Eugene Mitchell, Miss Grant, I forget her first name, Sandra Harrigan, Natal Green, James Spain, Dr. James Spain, and Mr. Charlie Mack, who was a devout Seventh-day Adventist. In the math department, we had Mrs. Olive Walcott, Mr. Brian Modell. I've not seen him in years. I don't know where he is. I don't know what's his status. Mr. Joseph Brown, whom I run into one day. I stopped at a gas station convenience store up in Jacksonville, and I run into him. He was just passing through. We had Miss Rosalie Parker, Mr. Francois Dominique, was still around after he left Central High School. He worked at the EDA, and he's around. We had Mr. Lawrence Autry, Mr. Robert Smith. For sure, I know that he has passed on. Mr. Frank Brown, Mr. and Mrs. Albert and Mary Schuster. What a wonderful, lovely couple. They're still around with us, Every time I've run into them, and it's been a while I've not seen them, but I've always been impressed when I see them. These people have demonstrated to us all on this island how we can take care of things that we have and keep them in good shape, in top working condition, as demonstrated by some of the vehicles that they owned, which I think these things are still running up to this day. And then we had Mr. David Middleton, who had been a former principal on the mainland, and then he retired, and then he taught at St. Croix Central High School. And then we had one, Mr. Tabois. These guys were all in the math department. In the science department, we had Gary Shaw, we had Alan Anderson, Maurice James, the senator. She also worked at Central High School in the science department. We had Mrs. Laverne Smith, who of course she has passed on. We had Mr. Alan Woods, who was also a personality on radio. He has passed on. We had Dr. Malcolm McCall. Dr. McCall, I had some interesting experiences with him. We had Mr. James Shuck, Dudley Fabio. I have not seen or heard of him in a while, but he and I we were pretty close because he rode motorcycle. And when I got into riding motorcycles, I rode along with him and Dr. Charles, who was assigned at the hospital here. We had Miss Nay, we had Trina Brown, and I think that's about all that I have on my list so far. In bilingual education, we had Elsa Ramirez, we had Juanita Camacho, and we had Maria Navarro. I know that Miss Navarro has since passed on. In the foreign language department, we had Mr. Wang Felix, we had Miss Luz Suarez de Highfield. I run into her, I think, a couple of years ago. Was it, yeah, 2024? That was last year. Last year, I ran into her at Plaza East. I run into her. We also had Miss Yvette Gordon. I used to see Yvette Gordon every now and again, but I've not seen her lately. Mr. David Rossington, who's my neighbor. He lives right across the street from me in Enfield Green. Miss Neil Sabao, who has passed on, and Mr. Gordon. I've not seen Mr. Gordon in a while. He had his son and his daughter also worked with us after a while. In the history department, we had Mr. Paul Radix. We had Mr. Tony Richards, who's a musician, by the way. Devin Carrington, I think, also worked in the history department before he went on to law school. Father Henry, who has passed on. Mr. John Stout. Miss Olga Edwards, I think she has passed on as well. Mr. I'm not too sure. Miss Edwards is still around, as well as her husband, as far as I know. But both of them worked at Central, the husband and the wife. They are also the ones who run Health Conscious, but I think right now the building or the business is subleased to someone else. We had I'm not too sure if Miss Karen Turlan was into math or history. I'm not too sure about that. Somebody can correct me. We had Mr. Andres Tutine. I'm not very good buddy of mine. I've not seen him in a while. Miss Regina Williams. There was one Miss Francis. I don't recall her first name. Then we have Miss Campbell. For sure, Miss Campbell has moved on. And I think that we had Mr. Roderick Gadin. Mr. Gadin, very interesting guy, who also taught history. In physical education, we had Mr. Cipriani Phillips. We had Danny Cornelius, and we had the physical ed and driver's ed were kind of like merged into one. We had Wanda Fuller, Margie Cox, Mr. Raymond Lockhart. I ran into him not too long ago. And then Mr. Alan Javois. These are the persons I recall. Mr. Javois, I think, has moved on. Is it Javois or Jarvis? Jarvis is his name. Alan Jarvis, yes. In office occupation or the business sector, we had Mr. David Smith. We had Miss Margaret Roebuck, Olga Hewitt, Clyde Munn. I know Clyde Munn has passed on. Jose Santana, Alicia Farley. I'm a very, very wonderful person. I don't know much about her status. We had Miss Claire Marshall, whom I did run into sometime a few years ago, but I've not seen her since then. And we had one Miss Brow out there. I don't recall her first name. Our nurses at the time were Nurse Evangelista and Nurse Eleanor Chapman. In the English department, we had Mr. Mark Moros. We had Dr. Noreen Michael. That's before she went on to become, well, she was not yet Dr. Michael at the time when she taught in the history in the English department at Central High, but she later went on to become Commissioner of Education. We had Miss McKay. We had Miss Lenhart, and I'm giving the last names here because I don't recall the first names of these individuals. Miss Rosalind LaRock, We had one Miss Betzler. We had Natalie Williams, Doreen Rogers, Lynn Cobb, Charlene Blake, Matson Green, Janice Sims, Marion Peterson. I just spoke with her son over the weekend. Sharon Smithy, Coleman Hill, Spencer Clavo, Doreen James, and Henry Mark. Mr. Henry Mark, I believe, now is the principal. What school is he at? Maybe he's the principal at Pearl B. Again, if somebody knows better, you can call in and correct me. In industrial arts, we had Mr. Henderson, we had Mr. Walcott. Who else we had in there? I'm forgetting somebody. Wow, Mr. Benjamin, I think, was in industrial arts as well. And then we had one Mr. Beckett and one Pete Winnicky in driver's ed. Mr. Otis Alexander and Patricia Oliver were librarians. In ROTC, we had Colonel Schneider. Special education, we had Still Levizo, Cyril Levine, Linda Thompson, and Dorothy Billing. In the reading department, we had Sally Jacobs, Georgiana Zakharov, she has passed on, Miss Valerie Flowers, and Gail Washburn. I run into Gail Washburn earlier this year. I run into her. She's doing well. She's looking well. All right. I might have had some couple of people mixed up here because in terms of industrial and vocational, but some additional names in vocational education: Dexter Henry, Vernon Ellis, Elton Hodge, Herbert Grigg, Charles Mark, and Chester Benjamin. There he is again. Miss Henry, Miss Janet Francis, and James Peterson, who unfortunately passed on because of a trucking accident. And so these are people who paid their dues, gave much to this community. It was a fine cadre of educators we had at Central High School during those years when I worked at St. Croix Central High School. And so it is an honor and a privilege for me to mention these individuals, have a roll call sort of, and for those of you who either attended St. Croix Central High School, worked there and know of these individuals, of course, I think we need to say hats off to them. There were persons who worked in the cafeteria, the kitchen cafeteria area, and sadly, I know some of them. I know at least, and I think one of them at least has passed on. One of them was a musician. Wow, I don't even recall his name right now. Well-known musician. I think he played with either Soul Busters or one of those groups, along with Devin Carrington and others. What's his name now? I can't recall his name. And then there were a couple of ladies, one in particular from the Matrichal area, who worked in the kitchen. I don't recall the names, but hats off to these people too, because they were the ones who worked in the kitchen, preparing the food to serve in the cafeteria so that the children who attended St. Croix Central High School could have had a healthy lunch whilst attending school. And so I thought that I should mention those persons because too often, hey, we take things for granted. We take people for granted. And I think it's important that from time to time, we can just, mention persons who make midlife what it has been, who have contributed towards making this experience a memorable experience, if I may, because indeed the experience has been memorable up until this point in time. For those of you who would like to call in and share with us, the numbers are 773-0390 and 773-0490. I believe I might have somebody on the line, so let me check and see. Oh, wow. All right, apparently not. Why is this still blinking? I don't even know. All right, well, hopefully Josh can come in and find and let me know what's happening. But there is a There's a light blinking, which may interfere with calls coming in. So, Josh, if you're hearing me, see if you can give me some assistance here. Now, folks, I want to just switch a bit and get into something that somehow, doesn't sit well with me. And so I want to talk about it a bit. Recently, there is a lot of attention, a lot of energy being given to the Epstein scandal and how it has, impacted the Virgin Islands. And I don't have a problem with people paying attention to that, discussing it. But I think there are some things we need to understand in terms of what goes on in our community, what happens in our community that we need to pay some attention to. And I don't think we're giving some of these matters the energy, the attention we need to give to them. In other words, people, if the Epstein scandal had victims, and it's not to discount the importance, the significance of those victims, but there are victims. There were victims, for sure. But we talk about those victims, and it's fair game. It's fair. It's a fair approach to talk about these things, so that hopefully we won't see a repeat of these things. But folks, we got our own children right here being victimized by our system, by us. Some of us perhaps don't even realize that we victimize the children. We're doing it in a sort of like an oblivious frame of mind. We're not really in the moment when we victimize, so we don't realize that we're actually victimizing because of what we failed to do that we should have done. But man, our children are having a rough time. They're having a tough time. And we have not given their plight the energy and the attention that we should have given to their plight. And I think it's important that we talk about that some. In the same newspaper that I spoke about with the front page display of the Guardians of Culture, Moko Jumbi, in that same newspaper, on page 2, we have an article which says, Justice Department files formal charges against 8 minors in bomb threat cases. And I want you all to listen to me very carefully. Do not twist my words. Don't bend them out of context. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying that, our children should be a priority. They must be a priority. We must provide for them safety nets. We must give them proper instruction so as to empower them to live lives that are productive and fruitful. That's the point that I'm bringing home. Now hear this. Justice Department files formal charges against 8 minors in bomb threat cases. 8 juveniles, notice that, juveniles there. 8 juveniles have been arrested on St. Thomas as part of the ongoing investigation into the wave of bomb threats that has disrupted schools across the district over the last 2 weeks, the VI Attorney General's office confirmed Thursday. And I continue reading and putting in part. These threats caused evacuations, lockdowns, and significant disruption across the St. Thomas district, where it said in a statement, under Virgin Islands Code Title 14, Section 2142, making a bomb hoax is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. This is being emphasized, that is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And we have juveniles, minors, having been arrested because of threats that have been made, allegedly. In addition to the bomb hoax charges, the suspects will also face several others, including false reporting in the first degree, conspiracy, cyber harassment, and disturbance of the peace by threat. The Attorney General's office noted that the consequences for disrupting local school operations are serious and will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. I want you guys to hear that. Will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. We're dealing with some juveniles, some minors. We as tough adult conks, we do a lot of crap. We engage in all kinds of things that we should have known that we shouldn't engage in. But now we're talking about prosecuting some minors to the full extent of the law. His office emphasized that the consequences for disrupting school operations are serious and will be pursued to the fullest extent of the law. And then we have where it says here that as a consequence, students are prohibited from bringing devices onto campus, and the school will conduct daily searches to enforce the rule. A mandatory parent meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening to discuss safety protocols, so that, we've heard that, cell phones are being permanently banned from the schools, which I think that this is it's a regressive move. It's counterproductive. Schools on the mainland where they've had shootings and all kinds of stuff like that, they have a protocol in place whereby the cell phones are collected from the students, kept in a safe box or what have you. And then upon exiting the class or exiting the school, they get their cell phones. Because cell phones today are a necessary educational tool. I repeat that. Cell phones today are, besides being a tool of communication across distances, besides being a tool that facilitates communication between parties no matter where they're located, cell phones have become a necessary tool of education, a necessary means of accessing important information and data. So I think it's regressive on the part of those who say that the phones should just be banned from use or banned from the schools, period. I disagree with them. Anyway, I want to repeat again. Students are prohibited from bringing devices onto campus, and the school will conduct daily searches to enforce the rule. A mandatory parent meeting was scheduled for Thursday evening to discuss safety protocols. Senator Avery Lewis, Vice Chair of the Senate Committee on Education and Workforce Development, issued a separate statement condemning bomb threats, and he's not wrong for condemning the bomb threats. And then he goes on to say, and I quote here, "Let me be clear, these are not pranks." How did he make that determination? How did he make that determination? I repeat, how did he make that determination? These are not pranks. They are dangerous, traumatic, and unacceptable, he said. Your actions are robbing our children. And by the way, those accused are also our children. I want to repeat that again. The accused are also our children. But he goes on to say, and I want to repeat that again. Your actions are robbing our children of precious learning time, instilling fear in our schools, and placing unnecessary and exhausting burdens on our teachers, administrators, school staff, first responders, and families. I'll end this here. And I'm going to say my piece. I don't give a rat's tail who disagrees with me on this one. But my position is simply that Our children need guidance. They need a sound sense of direction to discern what is acceptable behavior and what is unacceptable behavior. We have not provided for our children the necessary set of instruction to empower them to make wise and prudent decisions. Notwithstanding, the majority of our children do well, exercise good judgment. But this is reality, folks. We are not all at the same level when it comes to the acquisition of knowledge. And so to tell me that you want to just look towards adjudicating this case in the courts, I disagree. Those students need a hearing. They need a hearing and they need age-appropriate punishment. This should not be discussed or settled in the courts. Let me hear what this caller has to say. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning on this beautiful Monday.
A pleasant good morning to you too, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. I don't know what you were discussing before, but what's on my mind is that situation with the arrest of a assistant principal and St. Thomas. I called in a talk show because they were arguing about that case and what it should happen and so on and so forth. And I asked the question, well, isn't there a law that school personnel, whether it's a teacher, counselor, monitor, whomever, if they become aware of a suspect that a child is being abused, that it must be reported? Isn't there such a law?
I don't know if it is a law, it may be just a policy, but certainly there is a protocol in place for that.
Well, I wasn't sure. And they were so dismissive. And I said, well, there should be a protocol, a process involved. Oh, that's all we're talking about. That's not the issue. I said, well, y'all are doing. And I tried to clarify, tried to get clarity. So perhaps the best person is to having a school official high up, like Commissioner of Education and tell us what is the protocol. Because that's my understanding. Is once you suspect, even if the child doesn't reach out to you and verbalize abuse, if you suspect, you have to report. And so I was trying to get more clarity on that. If you say it's not even a law,
hear me out. First of all, let me just, by way of background information, persons who take up teacher education courses, persons who take up related courses in psychology, you're instructed to be observant when dealing with the students who have been placed in your care. You've been instructed to note things that just aren't right with them. If you see signs of abuse, you have a responsibility to report to proper authorities. That's part of the educational training for teachers who go through teacher education training courses, if I may. Beyond that, it is when I taught in the schools, I knew it was part of the policy in school that we should identify certain patterns of behavior, certain signs in children that's just untoward, that's just not appropriate, and that we should report certain signals to the counselors and let the counselors take it from there. In other words, if a student came to your class with a bruised up eye, you have a responsibility to find out what's going on. And if upon investigation you find out that that child has been abused physically by a parent or a guardian or whoever it is, you have a responsibility as a classroom teacher to report that to the counselors.
To the counselor. And that's what I was trying
And
to
they will
have a
take it from there.
conversation
Mhm.
with the staff show host.
Yeah.
But I guess everybody isn't polite like you. Some of them staff show hosts are so hostile. You know, you're trying to get fact information, accurate information. They want to be so combative with you. You know, but that makes sense what you're saying, because my understanding is that individual had a problem already. There were some allegations made, and they were arguing well if the person should be still on the job. But I know anytime someone reports harassment, it's an allegation at that point. But like certain places, they would automatically put you on leave with pay, right? Leave with pay until they investigate the matter. They don't just fire you like that, because at that point it's an allegation, and that's why we're trying to have a conversation with them about, you know, like what is the protocol? How these things supposed to pan out? But apparently protocol wasn't followed. And the individual, well, eventually the student reported, and now we reached this point, because it's the same thing with the one with Bruce Smith. All the years, we talk years, dozens of boys that he allegedly, well, he's convicted now, so it's not more alleged, that he molested. How that went so unnoticed? I don't get it. So I mean,
it isn't that it wasn't noticed, because reports were made. Persons in authority just either dismiss the reports or
they dropped the bar.
Yeah.
Well, that's what happened a lot of times with the human services in the States. A lot of children, it is so painful when you read these stories. How many people report children being abused? They go to their homes, and the parents make it seem like everything is okay. The children are so traumatized they can't speak out, and next thing you know, the child is dead. So many times you hear reports of parents murdering their own children, even babies.
But hear me out, and that's what when I began my program this morning, I spoke about culture, how we have to teach our people to be proud Virgin Islanders and to respect and love their culture, and by extension to respect and love their people. You talk about the mainland. We've had several cases here in the Virgin Islands where young parents killed their children, or stepchildren. It's not just one. It's not just one case. We've had a number of cases. We've had many cases of sexual assault of children by parents, guardians, step parents. We've had more than one case of abuse of children by school personnel. I don't recall having heard of abuse of children by the clergy here in the community. Maybe others have, but I don't recall any such cases. And I'm saying that's what I was talking about when we were giving all of this attention and energy to the Epstein scandal, but we have our children being victimized by our system and persons in positions of authority and in our system. And we're not talking about that. We're not talking about empowering our children so that they can make wise and prudent decisions. We're not discussing these matters. We don't have things in place for that. And so I'm saying, man, it really gets to me now. Let's stop being hypocritical.
I don't like what's happening with the delegate to Congress, Stacey Praski. I believe that's a witch hunt, a political witch hunt. She, in my opinion, has been exonerated from being charged as an enabler when the lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice. Now come this text situation
Mm-hmm.
and people are castigating her and portraying her as a pedophile enabler. I think that's so unfair. I mean, come on. Because I'm not judging her. I'm just stating the situation as I see it. I'm not judging, not tearing down anybody.
Mm-hmm.
But because somebody accepts campaign donations from a pedophile, that makes them a pedophile enabler. If that's the case, all of us are pedophile enablers because then we get money when the farmer G5 blast and James Morgan and all that. Then we get esteemed money back in the coffers here of the Virgin Islands of the United States. So that makes us a pedophile enabler. When the victim sues the rapist in a civil lawsuit and they get money, that makes them an enabler? No. I don't think that should classify somebody as an enabler.
Let me ask you a question. How many persons, or by how many votes did the resolution to censure the delegate, by how many votes did it fail?
Just a few.
By about 12 votes, right? By about 12 votes, it failed. Okay. But hear me out. Hear me out. It failed by about 12 votes.
Yes.
The law, or was it a law? The law to demand that the files, all of the files, be released. By how many votes did that pass?
I don't know.
Okay, there was only one vote. Only one vote against it. So here is only one vote against it.
Was that the whole Congress, or that was just the House of Representatives?
Everybody voted, with the exception of one person. Everybody voted for full disclosure. Okay, something just doesn't add up. Why would you all vote for full disclosure of information, but when it comes to voting to censure the lady, so many of you went against her? Does that make sense? Some 200 something went against her. That makes any sense? All of you voted.
If you look at it from a political
that's what I'm saying, is that when people look at this thing, I'm not trying to somehow defend the Congress lady. I'm not involved in that. They can sit there with that thing. That's their kettle of fish. I'm simply
trying to look at it just to analyze the situation.
So what I'm drawing here, and I want people to understand, because people like to take your words and right. All I'm trying to say here is that when you look at the Congress of the United States and you look at the two votes, you see hypocrisy highlighted there. That's all I'm saying. They're hypocritical. They will hide what they want to hide, and they will expose what they want to expose conveniently. That's all I'm saying.
And they act like they are the moral high ground when they support the only felon to be elected to the President of the United States, and not just one felony charge conviction, several. And you want to say you are so morally upright that you get it all discombobulated over some text. But you're supporting a felon who caused a death of a person in that riot, that insurrection. But you're supporting this one who committed adultery with a hooker and trying to bribe the hooker to stay silent. And that's who y'all want to represent you all. Really, that's the President of the United States. Other places around the world must be laughing or shocked, like, really? really?
Mm-hmm.
How you choose a felon over a prosecutor?
Mm-hmm.
And then you want to talk about rounding up illegal immigrants because they're breaking the law, they're criminals, and you're a criminal?
Mm-hmm. Let me just say this here, and I refuse to get caught up in the crosshairs of this Epstein scandal. I take no sides in that, but I will discuss this thing in an objective fashion, if I may. And
Well,
so,
that's what I'm doing too.
and so,
I'm taking no side.
and so, whilst I look at, I will discuss the votes taken by the Congress, which shows me a measure of hypocrisy. I will talk about that. I will not necessarily get into any particulars, but if somebody were to ask me certain particular questions about the entire dynamic of the relations between certain persons in the territory and the deceased Jeffrey Epstein, if based on information that I have read, that I've been able to access, if I can somehow put things in a proper perspective, I would do so.
Well, I see it the way you see it. I am not on the side of Democrats, the side of safety. I'm on the side of the truth
Mm-hmm.
and seeking facts.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't believe in character assassination
Mm-hmm.
of an individual based on your feelings and your opinions.
Mm-hmm.
I like to deal with facts.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, she was not censured. She was not removed from the intelligence committee.
Mm-hmm.
The lawsuit, the civil lawsuit, was dismissed with prejudice.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, that's an exoneration.
Can I share something? Can I share something with you and those who are listening? Based on my observation, information I've been able to access via social media and other internet sources, the majority of people I see attacking, people on the mainland who attack the Congress lady, they are they are of the Caucasian group, if I may. The blacks I have seen attacking the Congress lady are some of our own people down here in the Virgin Islands. That's what I have observed. In other words, I've seen some white people going after the Congress lady. I've not seen many black Americans on the mainland going after her. But I have seen people here locally who go after her. That's my observation.
My observation too.
So,
you got a lot of haters here.
Yeah, so
people willing to tear down your own.
Well, hey.
You know?
There you have
but,
it.
And I don't know. I thought I would see you at the Virgin Islands Palestinian Friendship Day celebration yesterday at the Agriculture Fairground. You didn't attend?
No, I did not. I did not.
That was a great experience. That's the second annual event they had.
Mm-hmm.
Opportunity, to bring the cultures together
Mm-hmm.
And unite in our history. And I hear people talking when they use coded language like support locals. Why are we making the Arabs rich?
When did you hear that? At the event?
No, I didn't hear it at the event. I'm saying this is something that I hear frequently.
Okay.
And I want to know when they say support locals, don't they consider the Arabs local? It seems like they seem to be at a destination. I'm not sure where they're going. When they say support locals, what are they talking about? Only black people who from here? Because locals just means, look, you're here. You're here in the territory.
Mm-hmm.
You don't necessarily have to be born here, but you live here. You are legal residents of the place, and you have a business. You have a business established.
Mm-hmm.
But what I heard yesterday from the Palestinians is that, well, most of the Arabs are Palestinians. That's all. That's the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
descendants of, from, they have Palestinian from the nation known as Palestine. And everybody assumes they are from one place. They are, okay, they're Arab because what ties them is the culture. They speak Arabic. But they come from different regions. You got Jordan, you got Lebanon, you got different places, and these people are known as Arabs. But for the most part, the ones that are here are from Palestine. And many of them were born here. So the Crucian Palestinian. One more local you could be on that. So they're part of our community, and I think we need to all come together and celebrate this friendship, because some of them, I forget the date it was mentioned. It's a lot of historical information I was giving out yesterday. But it was mentioned when they first came, the first who came, but they've been here a long time. So you got fourth, second, third, fourth generation who born here. It's not like they go out flying away and say, I'm going to have my baby in Palestine. You know, they stay here and think, right. They have the children. They're part of us, part of our culture.
And let me, if I may add if I may add something to it, a number of the Arab businesses that you see on the island, they're family owned, and there are family, and a lot of the family members were born right here on the island, so that they are, so they are actually native owners of the businesses. They co-own the businesses with their parents. You know, so so I just wanted to put that in there in the pot as well.
I had a Chinese descent live in as my student, and he used to tell people, I am not Chinese. My ancestors were Chinese. He used to say, I am Caucasian. I'm like, I never listened to it. He spoke Caucasian, Maryland, and many others. He spoke raw Caucasian. He made it clear he is not Chinese. He's Caucasian. So people need to understand the difference between nationality, ethnicity, ancestral roots. But in fact, what ties us all here is we made a choice to make the West Virgin Islands our home. And I want us, all of us, to live in peace and harmony. And the laws should apply to everybody equally. So this thing about native rights, which I get a lot of pushback for. Technically speaking, we, the African descendants, for the most part, the predominant part of this population, came from Africa. Am I wrong or right?
You're right.
Okay. We're not indigenous. The indigenous people were like the Taínos and the Caribs, okay?
Yep.
But it doesn't matter. We're here. And what binds us is, I think we all should be working together collaboratively to see a better Virgin Islands. And I'm going to reach out to the Palestinian community because I want them to be a part of this process in us getting a constitution that is for all of us, not for us selected group, not just for ancestral native Virgin Islanders, for everybody that resides here. So I hope you will listen to my show tomorrow. I'm expecting a guest, the head of the Palestinian Virgin Islands Association, the president, Ahmad Hussein. He's the president. He will be on my show, I guess, tomorrow.
Okay.
And I'm going to bring up that topic.
All right. So I'll try.
I want us to be involved in shaping a constitution, and they're part of this community. So I think it should be very inclusive.
Okay. Absolutely. I'm going to try and tune in. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a beautiful, blessed day.
You take care. Be blessed. And thanks for calling. All right. Couple of things I want to say in terms of what the caller presented. I know a couple of white folk born here on the island of St. Croix. And when you speak with them, they speak rank Crucian, if I may categorize their speech that way. You couldn't tell if you are listening to them, away from the presence, and you were just hearing the voice. You couldn't tell if they were white, black, or other. They sound very much like a local person, but yet these are white folk. In my discussions with one of the Native Virgin Islanders over the weekend, he said to me, listen, there is only one race, and that's the human race. For whatever reasons, we have allowed all this confusion to come in terms of, who is, Caucasian and who is Negro and all of this, it's just one race. And he says that fundamentally, the original race was the African race. And I want to believe that all others came from the African race. Let me see what the scholar has to say. Okay. Hello?
Hey, Senator Baptiste, how you doing on this beautiful Monday morning?
Good morning to you and welcome to the program. I'm doing just fine. How about you?
I can't complain, still alive.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to circle back to you on our last conversation, and you had a caller that called in, and I want you to know that black folks didn't get lynched during the time of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
The lynching didn't start until after slavery, after they freed the slaves.
Okay.
That's when the lynching started, when they started to lynch black folks. They just didn't kill black folks during slavery because they was property and they was money.
Mm-hmm.
They will break those black folks. They will tie them up and they'll do some dehumanizing stuff. They're not going to kill them, but they're going to break them.
Okay.
So I want to put clear that lynching started with the Ku Klux Klan and the KKK because American whites had a fear that black folks was going to take over the country and use all that propaganda. So they made a movie called Birth of the Nation. And President Woodrow Wilson showed that movie. He was also a known Ku Klux Klan member. Okay?
I hear that.
And in Indiana, because I know D. Hamilton Jackson went to law school up in Indiana, and that was the time that the KKK was at the strongest point, and it was seen as a great organization. And the president of the KKK ended up raping a white woman, and the organization went downhill. And if I'm not mistaken, our attorney general went to law school also. The current attorney general,
Mm-hmm.
he's from Indiana, and then he went to Harvard also. And up until 2018 or 2019, Jeffrey Epstein, the convicted child sex predator, that Pam Bondi warned Stacey Plaskett and the Virgin Islands that this guy is a devil from hell and a demon. Do not allow him in your territory. That Stacey, who was the congresswoman when Stacey Plaskett was at the EDA and Governor Albert Bryan was helping him? Who was our congresswoman at that time?
It would have been Donna.
Oh, okay. And everybody know of this Jeffrey Epstein because Oprah Winfrey got friends like him, a pastor that's from Brazil that got caught. I think he's doing like 3 life sentences. He became a big pervert or child molestation, drinking kids' blood, adrenochrome. And I want to say these same people came and attacked Michael Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
When Michael Jackson realized that they were stealing all his money and playing these games,
Mm-hmm.
these were these same Jeffrey Epstein people playing the game, calling Michael Jackson the weirdo and the sicko.
Mm-hmm.
They did the same thing with Mike Tyson, calling him a weirdo. He did this, he did that. And you know who spoke up for those two people? It was President Donald Trump.
Okay.
That said Michael Jackson is a great man. He never had an issue with kids or doing any of that stuff.
Okay.
It was President Donald Trump that spoke up for Mike Tyson.
But here is Derek, here is my point of concern. We have in the Virgin Islands, especially on the island of St. Croix, some 40% plus of our children living below poverty lines. We have some 75% of our high school graduates being required to take remedial courses when they enter the local university. We have over 70% of elementary school children not doing well in mathematics and English language arts. I don't hear, and beyond that, we have all of these children being, if I may say, criminalized by circumstances here in the territory. I don't hear anybody coming to their defense and saying, let's do better by our children. So I'm saying you're giving all of this energy, all of this attention to the scandal, but let's also focus on the plight of our children here in the territory and stand up in their defense and ask us to do better by them.
I agree with you, and these things have all been done strategically and systematically. You know, when our school was doing good, you know, they gave us separate but equal. And we had our own black schools and our black teachers. And even though we didn't have the same funding and the same resources, when we kept our kids in the same school, they was actually testing higher than the white schools. So they had to find ways to break that down. And how they broke that down was during the time of the civil rights, where they wanted to steal all our richness and all our wealth from us. They have done this thing throughout history. You know, we didn't get our 40 acres and a mule, so you have blacks that actually was able to acquire land and to, you know, build communities and stuff like that. And these same people, these Epstein people, they will study you. It's a science for them. And using the courts, see, when they took the chains off of us, they gave us invisible chains and invisible whips, using statutes and codes and using the law to disenfranchise us and dehumanize us. So when grandma did have a house and land that she was paid for, when it was time to go through probate or time to go through the courts, they're going to steal that land. They're going to steal it, as they did in 2008, where they gave us these, they used to redline us, and then they reversed that to give us the loan so that they could steal the land and steal our houses from us, so that now we got to go live in projects. They're going to change our education so that we don't get the proper education that's needed, because Rockefeller took over our education. You know, so we know exactly what they have been doing and how they have been targeting us. And again, everything that you just talked about, it goes back to Epstein, pedophilia.
But here is my position and submission, Derek. When we look at history, there was a period referred to as the Dark Ages. There was another period called the Renaissance, and there was also a period called the Enlightenment. When we look at the experiences that our people in the Caribbean diaspora have gone through, today we have enough of us with vision, with integrity, to stand up and say, well, now is the time to rebuild. Now is the time to uplift and empower our people. And so, forgetting the trials, the tribulations, the difficult trek we've gone through, what is important now is where we stand and what we can do to uplift the generation, to empower the generation.
Well, what we got to do is exactly what President Donald Trump and Pam Bondi did is the first thing, seeing all that pedophilia and predator stuff out of our kids' schools, sexual identity, and we got to put God back into the
And I agree with that. I agree with putting God back in the picture.
Yeah, the next thing they also did was they took all those school books out of the school that was doing that and demonizing kids. They also revamped all the programs, because we've had a lot of kids that end up missing during the Biden administration that just went completely missing, don't even know. So, you know, a lot of these programs that's been set up have been set up by the Democratic Party and these Jeffrey Epstein people, and using kids' sexual identity and preying on them so that they could dehumanize them and hide these pedophiles, who's our congresswoman and who's the judges and, you know, who's these different elite people. So they had to try to find a way to make this way look normal. And that's what they have done, is target the kids and sending kids to little boys to want to play against little girls, and have little boys want to go into, you know, girls' restrooms to try to make this stuff look normal. And there's nothing normal about it. There's nothing that you can do. The congresswoman, she's filthy, she's dirty, she's demonic, and anybody who try to
but hold on.
agree with her and try to look at her ways that she didn't do nothing wrong. No, these people was warned. 2008 Pam Bondi told the Virgin Islands, do not touch this guy with a long-handled spoon. President Trump said that he's filthy. President Trump called the police on him in Mar-a-Lago and started an investigation on Epstein. He's always said he never took any money from Epstein. President Trump has never been to Epstein Island. But I bet you Barack Obama been there. The Clinton has been there. You see? So this is what's been going on all over our face to try to say that President Trump is racist, President Trump is this, President Trump is that. No, President Trump is trying to get our kids protected. Every baby that's being born is getting a 401k in America. President Trump is trying to make sure he revamps all the food stamps, EB stamps, and give it to all these illegal aliens. He's actually saying that the Bushes was corrupt. President Trump said we're going to drain the swamp. So everything that he said that he's going to do, he's actually doing. This is what the American people voted for. We do not want sexual identity on our children. We want to get back to God. We believe that marriage is between a man and a woman. And we do not promote LGBTQ on kids in school. Our black boys need strong black men. Strong men that got strong pride to say what a real man is, what the identity of a man is. That's what type of men that they need. They don't need people trying to promote this stuff on children. Our young black babies are dying. They promote this.
So let me.
Planned Parenthood. This is the last thing to the Planned Parenthood. Because that same person who just called, you're talking about Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood was designed by Rockefeller and that white woman who designed that because they had so many slaves in the population. The black was overpopulating the white. And they designed Planned Parenthood to get the little black girls and the black women to talk about killing babies.
All
what
right.
kind of people are we talking about?
Let me just say to you that a lot of what you said there, I agree with. But I do have somebody else on the other line, so I want to try and bring them in. So wrap it up, please.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, thank you again, Senator Baptiste. You're a man of honor and a man of God, and I just really appreciate you and the platform that you provide for us to talk and the dialogue. And dialogue is about disagreeing. That's how you're going to get to a common ground. And also, if you disagree, you know, sometimes iron sharpens iron.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
ask tough questions or challenge what I say, challenge my history. So thank you again, Mr. Baptiste, and may the Lord continue to bless you and your family.
All right. Thanks for calling and sharing. You stay strong. Bye. All righty. Let's see. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome. Hello,
Good
caller.
morning, Mr. John Baptiste.
Good morning
Hello,
to you.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Good morning and welcome to the program. Hello. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. You know, I just was listening to the last caller. It sounds like he's, you know, a good person. But the stance he just took about President Trump. Well, let me say this here. I have been coming to New York City, where I'm currently living, since, I think, 73. Moved to New York City in 81 upon graduating from Eudora, Kent. And the history of the Trumps, from his father, Fred, who owned homes in Queens and Brooklyn, where they said point blank, they don't want blacks living in their buildings. And that his father was at KKK rallies and possibly a KKK member. When the when the federal government was just closed, and the lower court said to send out the funding for SNAP, did he not go to the Supreme Court and was trying to deny children from receiving SNAP benefits?
Well, actually, he denied anyone in America, whether black or white, who depended on that subsistence.
What is a SNAP recipient? I know I'm not looking at color, race, creed, gender. You're a SNAP recipient, meaning that you are having a difficult time putting food on your table.
Absolutely.
To the point where other local jurisdictions have to come up with local funding to make that need for their residents or constituents in their jurisdiction. So for people to keep coming at the end, oh, Trump didn't do this. Trump is up in the eyeballs with the pedophilia. Because he didn't come to live St. James. What about what he was doing here in New York? What about what he was doing at Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach? You don't have to come to live St. James to harm and rape little children. So,
well, my position,
because he did come to so-called AKA pedophile eyes, that he did none of this. He was a friend with his best friend for 15 years. Even his brother Mark is stating this. Mark Epstein. So I have no love for Donald Trump. I mean, people can say what they want. Oh, he's this, he's that. I have lived it before he became a politician. When he was just a realtor here in the city of New York.
All right. Point well taken. We have another person on the line I'd like to bring on, so wrap it up.
Yeah, no, I just called in because I wanted to just let people be aware of his history. And I mean, what he's currently doing now, where he's trying to be a dictator, I mean, let me ask you something. As a farmer legislature, a farmer senator, isn't the Constitution the law of the land?
That's what it is. It's what governs us.
Exactly. From the Fourth Amendment to the Second Amendment to all the amendments, right? So why the same law of the land that was able to get it elected, you're now going against the law of the land?
Well, trust me, he will be held accountable for any misdeeds that he gets into. So
well, come next November, when we have the midterm elections, like when I moved up here in 2018 and was part of the blue tsunami that gave Nancy Pelosi a speakership that to be able to put a check on Donald Trump in his fourth term. We're gonna do the same thing come next November. You just saw I voted for Maldani, and we saw what just happened just several weeks ago with all of these elections, from the gubernatorial elections around the state. Everything went Democrat. Everything went. So
well, the people, my brother,
that was just the old way.
Yeah.
The blue tsunami that's coming next November.
All right.
I'll wrap up on that note.
Okay. Thanks for calling and sharing. Bye.
Yo.
All right. Let's see. Hello, caller. Hello.
Please enter your remote access code.
Hello, caller. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Yeah. I just wanted to share some news, some good news and some bad news about AI. Which you want first?
Give me the bad news first.
Right. So the bad news is they have some AI toys out for kids, this Christmas time. That some of them are decent, have safeguards in place. Others don't, and get into conversations with children that they shouldn't. Like, for instance, where to find matches and where they're likely to find matches and knives in the house. Get into sexual conversations with them. They first start out benign, so a parent might buy something or get a toy for their child and listen to it at first, and they're like, okay, this is decent. But then as time goes on, months later when you're not listening, they could get into these kind of things. And so I'm just wanting parents do some research. There's some that are okay, and there's that have safeguards so that these type of conversations won't happen. And there are others that have zero safeguard. They can end up talking to your child.
So in other words, you're saying that these are robotic toys that will actually engage the children in conversation.
Right.
Okay.
So you might remember they used to have years ago a teddy bear called Teddy Buxton that would talk to.
Yeah.
Those were like pre-recorded kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's only, this is AI.
Okay. All right. Well, I hope parents are hearing you. I hope parents are hearing you, and they'll pay attention. They'll be vigilant.
Right, and as I said, you could go on the internet and find out which ones have the safeguards in there and which ones don't.
Okay.
So
thanks for the heads up.
No problem. And on another note, this is a positive note about AI. It's like everything is good and bad. The guy who started search engines, which a lot of AI has end up becoming, is from Barbados, born and raised there.
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me hear that again.
Right. So the guy who started the very first search engine, and this is not disputed. When you look it up, they all talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
He was born and raised in Barbados. His name is Alan M. Taj. He went to McGill University in Canada, and he was working he was a student, and I'm not sure while he was a student he was working there, or he was a student and then eventually worked thereafter. But in any case, while he was there, he created the very first search engine. He called it Archie. It's archive, and he took out the V to give you Archie.
All right, and what's you said his name is Alan. The last name, Alan, what is it?
And the last name is EMTAGE.
All right. Interesting.
And and then also to add to that, I had a UBI student who, before I moved back, she came and participated in a summer program I had when she worked in my lab. My lab was automated, computer controlled, and then I had another grad student working on a coding program called Code 5, which is an optical coding system to design lenses. He used it to try to figure out some of the things that we were seeing in a sample. And I had an idea what might have been going on, but it's microscopic. I couldn't see what was going on. So I had him create a computer model to verify that that's what was working. So she was there during that time. Then she came back to finish her last year at UBI. She was a chemistry major, but doing a minor in physics. At the time, UBI didn't have a physics program, so this was the closest that you were interested in physics or engineering, this is the closest you could get to it. So she was doing that. I taught her last year of physics classes, and then she went back up to the university that I came from and worked on a PhD with a colleague of mine and mentor. And she got a PhD in applied physics so many years after. She went on to work as one of the 3 directors of research for the Army. The Army has a lab. All of them have labs. Army, Air Force. I have another undergraduate that, as a grad student, he ended up working for the Air Force lab. But anyway, she was one of the 3 directors for the Army. And then she went to work for the
Department of Defense overall. She became the director of AI and automation for all the armed forces, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. She did that for a while, and then last thing she moved to private industry, and she's like the chief technology officer for some private organization. So I think it's one pointing out is we have people in the Caribbean have been involved in search engines for a while, and AI, and it shows that we have the capability of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
If we steer our students and young people in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. So
and
then,
AI is the thing that is we all know is coming, good or bad. There are opportunities, but you have to be prepared, and you also have to have a certain demeanor. You have to listen to people when they're talking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people with experience, talking to you, telling you, and that's the one thing. Like this student of mine, she's smart, but I have had smarter students. But I haven't had a student that sits and listens like she did.
Mm-hmm.
She listens when she's around people with more experience than her. She listens intently to what they're saying. I find you have a lot of young people, very smart, but they think they know everything. And don't listen to people who have, they think that their smartness can overcome the lack of experience.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no way. You could be as smart as you can. If you don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, you're not putting it together.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you.
And people,
Go ahead, and I'll ask you a question when you finish.
People, you need to sit and listen to people who are likely to have the information that you are going to need. Then that's when your smartness kicks in, and you can put it together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't listen to people and they have a piece of the puzzle and you are not paying any attention to them, you're gonna get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of young people are not seeming to realize this. In my generation, we tended to listen to older people more. This generation, the current younger generation, they seem to think that their smartness can overcome everything,
mm-hmm.
and don't,
mm-hmm.
and miss out on opportunities.
Mm-hmm. It's obvious that a number of our children, have some deficiencies, inadequacies in some areas. It doesn't detract from the intelligence, but whether it is learning disabilities that they've got, whether it is behavioral problems that they display, but there are impediments to making the kind of progress you would like to see them make. And my question to you is, when we look at these things, I just spoke earlier on about the juveniles who have been charged with making bomb threats and what have you, and the view of the AG and other people in law enforcement that they want to prosecute these children to the fullest extent of the law, not realizing that these children, apparently they were having difficulties that they're going through. They're clearly being misled, and they need more help than punishment. And rather than adjudicating the case in court, these children should be brought in for a hearing, and then they should be given age-appropriate punishment. So my question to you and others who are of the same train of thought: how do we bring this community together in terms of people who have vision, people who are willing to bring about the change that we need to see to better our children and their outcomes?
Well, you need both things, the carrot and the stick. You need the carrot to help the students along, but you also need the stick for when they get out of control. Because there isn't a price to pay. People do all kinds of stuff. That's why we have a nervous system that spreads all over our skin.
Mm-hmm.
That when we do the wrong thing, we get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
And that encourages us not to. So if we're not paying attention to where we're walking, we trip and we fall, and
Mm-hmm.
the ground comes up and smacks us.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a nervous system that if we didn't have that, then what
I agree.
So they need to, so I'm glad what they're doing. They're punishing the people, or they're trying to find out who did it, punish them, and let the rest of the community know that they're punishing them.
But
So
the punishment, the punishment should be age appropriate, and it should be fair.
Of course.
You know.
Of course.
Okay.
It should be, and hopefully the laws were written in that fashion to begin with.
I don't know. I don't know about this one, my brother. We subscribe to the notion that the frontal lobe of the brain is not fully developed, not until the age of 25. And that's the part of the brain that gets us to make sound, logical decisions. So
at the same time, we can't just have people younger than 25 just running around.
I am in agreement with you. I am in agreement with you. But my thing is that, what do we have? Look, listen to this here. The kids count data comes out. And all of a sudden, senators are talking like as though, wow, this is a wake-up call. Man, I have information that shows that this has been the trend going back 10 years.
Yeah. I've been following the kid count for a while. It's pretty much the same.
Exactly.
Kid count
Exactly. So we've done nothing to address the inadequacies, the shortcomings, and all of a sudden now it's a wake-up call. I mean, we got to stop playing these games, man.
Well, of course, when you have children acting out in any community, it's not necessarily their fault. It's the adults' fault. The adults around them have made them feel that this type of activity is okay, that they will get away with it. So it's a wake-up call always. So I complain about the children and what they do, but my complaint really is about adults. If we are led and we are guided, the children need, from the baby on up to even beyond age, they need adults. They need adults for food, for shelter, for clothing, for security. So they do what they think the adults want them to do. They do what they think the adults are going to, what they not think, but what they see the adults reward them for. And because that's their survival. They cannot, a baby cannot survive without an adult. A toddler cannot survive without an adult. So they are going to do things. So the adults around them that are providing them the necessities, they're going to do what they think makes that adult happy. So if you see a child doing something, it's because they think that the adults around them that provide for them approve of it.
Can I share something with you and those who are listening? The elementary school I attended was a Catholic school. And then, of course, children would go to confession at least once a month. Those who are 7 and over, they would go to confession having made their first communion. And of course, there were some things that became prevalent as far as the priests were concerned. Some practices that the children were getting involved in that they should not have been getting involved in. And you know what the church did? They would have a retreat where they brought all of us. Whilst we were in school, they would take all of us into the church setting, and where they would have a retreat with us, pointing to us that this trend is bad. And whichever of you guys are getting into it, you need to stop. That's how that was years ago. That's how they handled that. And I'm saying, when I see the youngsters,
they cannot approve of this activity.
Exactly.
And basically, they'll tell you, if you continue to do this activity, we will not continue to support you in the ways that we have been supporting.
Exactly.
So if we gave your basketball court, you're not going to go play on the basketball court because you're doing nonsense.
So why can't we treat our children in the Virgin Islands in that fashion?
Well, see, here's the deal. So over the years, that was back in the day when people relied on the church for a lot of stuff. A hurricane came, the roof got blown off. The church members were the ones that would call. The church might even supply the material, but you depended on the church and the people in the church to get your roof back on. Well, on forward many years, and the government has taken over those duties. people don't need the church that much anymore because the government does everything. You got food stamps if you need food. You got FEMA if you need the roof put back on. But the church used to require you, or at very least your children, to behave properly. So if you weren't coming to church, at the very least your children had to come to Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
And they would train the children how to be a productive member in society, not to do these other stuff that that tears down to society.
Mm-hmm.
The government doesn't have that requirement. Your children, you and your children could be out there doing all kinds of stuff that tears down the society and community, but they will still provide you with the SNAP benefits. They will, when a hurricane comes go off your roof, they will still provide you with some stuff to repair. So over time, the church has not been, it loses its power.
Mm-hmm.
So the government is doing all the stuff. The people, and not requiring any good behavior out of person and their children.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what has changed.
Wow.
So,
Well,
so your child could be terrorizing the neighborhood, robbing, looting, stealing, killing, but you need a new roof, you're gonna get it.
Well, like
you need food stamp, you're gonna get it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, anyway, like I said earlier, throughout history, we had the period of the Dark Ages, we had the period of the Enlightenment, the period of the Renaissance. We now stand at some crossroads where we need to rebuild. We need a new sense of direction. What's happening with us?
We can't have our children uneducated, and because then they're going to get violent.
Agreed.
They're not going to know how they're not going to know how to settle issues between them because they're not going to think of other solutions.
Agreed.
People get violent when they run out of solutions, run out of ways of getting good results from things in life. Then anybody, even smart people, they just take smart people. It takes them longer to run out of solutions. You've seen fights in different countries, legislature and stuff like that. That's when they can't figure out how to resolve the situation, they turn to violence.
Well, we need to correct.
And so having an uneducated population, you're going to have a lot of more violence in that population than an educated population.
We need to correct these things. I am seeing some Virgin Islanders on social media. The content they're presenting is well put together. It's some intelligent stuff they're sharing with us. But in every sentence, they've got a punctuation with an obscene expression. And I'm saying, come on, man. We got to do better than that.
Well, that's what people do. They use obscenity when they can't think of it. The vocabulary is limited, and they want to express themselves, and they can't think of another word. They throw in an obscenity.
We got to do better than that. It's crazy.
And all of this is linked to education, and that's the thing. People don't seem to realize the importance of education, and that all the things that they complain about will ease up if they educate their children properly.
Wow.
Every last thing they complain about: water, the hospital, the roads, the sewage system, the water system. If you had someone that was more educated, and when I'm talking about education, I'm talking about both vocational and academic. They're the same thing. Education is a shortcut to gaining experience. You learn from the guy who took 10 years to figure this out. He teaches you what he learned in a day. It's a shortcut to learning what took people a long time to figure out, whether it's vocational or academic. And again, it's usually young people learning from older people. Usually is the case. And so there's this, if you have an educated public, you have a public that knows and understands what happens in the world in different areas. And things in your community will get better. Not perfect, but it will be better.
Right.
You have an uneducated population, and it might take them 50 years to get to something that could have been done in 5 years.
Well, let's hope.
And most people don't seem to understand this, and I can see why, because the government has not been a very good promoter of education.
And that's what I keep saying. We got systemic issues to deal with, to put a handle on. So But wrap it up because I think I have somebody else on.
Okay, well, that's it. Education is our way out of all the things that I feel like people complain about. If we had a more educated public, the problems would not be as severe as they are.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have half the complaints that you do.
Wow.
But people don't seem to realize it. So year after year, decade after decade, we're turning out people who are poorly educated, and so the problems persist.
Wow. Wow. I look forward to better
until we
things.
finally come to that realization and start making an emphasis that our people become educated. So you get a better bookkeeper, you get a better engineer in Wapper, you get a better engineer on fixing the roads. Because they're not coming from elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
We have to grow it.
All right.
Yep.
Let's hear what this other person has to say. Thanks for calling and sharing.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
No
Uh-huh. All righty. Hello, caller. Good morning and welcome.
Please, hello.
Uh-huh. Good morning. Welcome to the program.
Okay.
Are you with me?
Hello?
Yes, welcome to the program. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, okay. But I hardly hear you. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, thanks, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. It's just that I keep forgetting that I'm an hour behind you, so it's almost time to the ball.
Yeah?
Yeah, but let me just say quickly. I am sure you're acquainted with the term, the half has not been told.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Well, we see what is happening almost every day, maybe every half hour, since the release of the Epstein files. More and more things are being revealed.
Mm-hmm.
With our delegates to the House of Representatives that first said she never know the man.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she was the attorney for the EDC when Albert Bryan and them gave away $350 million to him.
Mm-hmm.
Then she, after we stick her with that, and she's been to going to his house in the Manhattan East Side, she said she went there once to collect some money, a $30,000 check for the Black Caucus.
Mm-hmm.
But now she has since admitted that she has been there more than 6 times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you see, they're going to have to admit because these things are very well recorded.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why Epstein and his people did it,
Mm-hmm.
but it taped everything, audio and visual,
Mm-hmm.
every single thing, every text, every voicemail, everything.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth goes by a lot of our native people who we had in high esteem
Mm-hmm.
and the collective behind.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
asked one time some people in authority, what about the governor?
Mm-hmm.
When is he going to be arrested? And I was told that if they arrest him now as he is the governor, assistant governor, he would have the full force of the judicial system behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to wait until it's further down so he could be forced to hire an attorney, which he should be able to pay easily.
Let me ask you something. You remember during the Barack Obama administration with Eric
Mm-hmm.
Holder as the AG, we were told that a number of officials here in the territory would have been arrested. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And it never happened. Am I right? Am I right?
Never happened.
Never happened.
That's right.
Now hear me out. Hear me out. I agree that we should call sin sin. If it's corrupt, say it is corrupt. If our people have done wrong, admit that they have done wrong. If they must be dealt with in terms of punishment, prosecution, what have you, let's do that. But here is my thing.
Right.
And I've said it this morning and I'm repeating again before we go off the air. that
Okay.
that here is my concern. When I look at the case of the young man who shot into the house in Lorraine, and now he's being given life without parole. When I look at the case of the children who have been abused in the St. Thomas St. John district by officials in education. When I look at the kids, okay, and when I look at the kids count data that comes out in terms of poverty level here in the territory, in terms of the lack of performance by children in the territory in the schools, we're doing a disservice to our children. And whilst we want to push all of these other items, I want us to put the matters that impact our children negatively on the front burners. That's what I'm asking for.
And you're so correct with that. Because our children are the ones that suffering by adults, misleaders who have children and grandchildren themselves. You know, why would they want to do that?
Well,
hello?
Yes, I'm here with you, but wrap it up quickly because my time has run out.
Yes, sir, it's gonna be more than quick. I just want to give your condolence and sympathy to the family of Jimmy Cliff. He passed at 81.
Okay, I didn't hear that. Well, I want to join you in that. And by the way, I'm a Virgin Islanders. Marcy, who used to teach, she was a teacher or a monitor. She worked with the department. She's been laid to rest today. Marcy Milligan. I was supposed to have mentioned that. So again, condolences to the family. Yeah.
Yes, I don't know her, but I know of her, and yes, of course, I know the Milligan family. So condolences as well. Yes.
All right, I gotta run because.
You get home safe.
All right, you take care. Blessings and happy Thanksgiving to everybody, one and all. Until the next time. Yeah, folks, be blessed. Give thanks and praises unto the Most High, and we'll reconnect at the appropriate time. Bye. You're chasing me out, man. You're running me.
No, man.